People often say a person breaks only once in life, after that, everything hurts differently. For Ian, that breaking moment came the day he realized the blind date wasn't a date at all, it was a trap. He had walked into the cafe nervous but hopeful, clutching the sleeves of his only good shirt. He had no idea that laughter, sharp, mocking, cruel, was waiting for him behind those polished glass doors. And he had no idea that, sitting in another corner of the cafe, unaware of the unfolding humiliation, was the one person who would change everything, the CEO's daughter, Meher. Hours later, people would talk about how a nobody walked into a storm and came out chosen by someone far above those who mocked him. But in that moment, Ian simply stepped inside, unaware of his fate. The cafe was warm, decorated with fairy lights that glowed like tiny stars. His heart hammered in his chest. He searched the tables until he saw her, Mina, his classmate from college, waving him over. She looked beautiful, perfect, elegant in a way that made him conscious of every thread on his cheap shirt. "Ian, over here," she called. He smiled shyly and walked toward her, trying not to look too excited. A blind date. Someone had actually agreed to meet him. He couldn't remember the last time anything in his life felt this hopeful. But the moment he reached the table, he noticed something off. Mina wasn't alone. 3 of her friends sat beside her, faces he recognized from university. Faces that had laughed at him. Faces that had called him the scholarship boy, the charity case, the guy who couldn't afford lunch. His smile faded. I thought this was a one-on-one. Mina smirked. "Relax, we're just here to make things fun." He should have left then. Something inside him whispered run. But he stayed, because he wanted to believe people could surprise him for once in his life. He sat down. The girls exchanged glances. One whispered loudly, "I can't believe he actually came." Another giggled. Maybe he thought he had a chance. Their voices stabbed through him. Ian swallowed. "Is something wrong?" Mina picked up her iced latte. "No, not at all." "So tell me, Ian, what's your dream job? Or is a job too big of a dream?" Her friends burst into laughter. Ian clenched his jaw. "I'm working at a garage right now. It's not glamorous, but—" "Oh, we know," one girl interrupted. "We saw your Instagram. Oil stains and, is that a broken fan in your background?" More laughter. Heat crept up his neck. His fingers trembled under the table. This wasn't a date. It was entertainment for them. A setup. A humiliation. His chest tightened. He reached for his bag. "I think I should go." Mina leaned forward, her tone turning dramatically sweet. "Ian, come on. Can't you take a joke?" He stared at her. The girl he once admired. The girl who invited him here. The girl who now saw him as a punchline. "I didn't come here to be laughed at." Their laughter rose again, echoing in the warm cafe air. Ian stood, heart aching, humiliation burning deep and raw. He took a step back. And collided with someone behind him. A soft gasp. The faint scent of jasmine. He turned. A girl stood there, holding a cup of hot chocolate that nearly spilled. She was dressed in a simple white kurta, her hair falling over her shoulders like a curtain of midnight. Her eyes were wide and gentle, eyes that didn't mock. "I'm so sorry," Ian said quickly, moving aside. She blinked at the table of girls, noticed their smirks, their judgment, the tension, then looked back at him. "It's okay," she said softly. "Are you all right?" He opened his mouth, but his voice cracked. He nodded instead and hurried toward the door. But the girl watched him go with a depth in her eyes that no one else noticed. Meher, daughter of billionaire CEO Salman Rauf, was known for many things, her kindness, her intelligence, her quiet charm, but not many people knew she hated cruelty more than anything. And what she had witnessed wasn't just cruel, it was personal. She placed her untouched hot chocolate on a side table and walked straight out after him. Ian sat on the curb outside, breathing hard. His humiliation clung to him like a second skin. He ran a hand through his hair, hating himself for hoping. Hoping someone might see him as more than a poor mechanic. Hoping he, too, deserved something good. He heard footsteps but didn't look up. He didn't want anyone to see his face. "May I sit?" a soft voice asked. He stiffened, recognizing it. He looked up slowly. The girl from inside. "You didn't have to," he began. "I know," she said gently. "But I wanted to." She sat beside him on the pavement, unbothered by dust or the stares of people passing by. "You don't know me," Ian said awkwardly. "Not yet," she replied. "But I'd like to." He froze. Words rarely came to him easily, and now he was stunned into silence. She gave him a warm smile, one that didn't pity. "You shouldn't let people like them decide your worth," she said softly. "They're loud, but that doesn't mean they matter." His throat tightened. How long had he waited to hear something like that? "Why do you care?" he whispered. She shrugged a little. "Because I once felt what you're feeling now." He looked at her, really looked at her, and noticed a quiet sadness hidden beneath her confident exterior. "What's your name?" he asked. "Meher." "I'm Ian." She smiled. "I know. They said your name inside." A flush of embarrassment washed over him. Meher saw it. "Don't worry," she said. "I only heard cruelty from their mouths, not truth." Something in his chest loosened. "Come," she said suddenly, standing up. "Let's get tea from the stall across the street. Their chai is better than anything in that fancy cafe anyway." He hesitated. "Don't worry," she added, a small grin forming, "I'm not setting you up." Her humor surprised him. He let out a quiet laugh. And for the first time that evening, he felt like he could breathe. They stood by the chai stall on the roadside, steam swirling around them like soft fog. Ian held the warm cup between his hands, grateful for its comfort. "Thank you," he said again, his voice steady but still unsure. Meher leaned against a streetlight. "For tea?" "For, not looking at me like I'm less." Her expression softened. "People who make you feel small are already small inside." He looked at her sideways. "You sound like someone who grew up around kindness." She laughed, light, musical. "Not really. I just grew up around fake people. There's a difference." He blinked. She was nothing like the arrogant rich girls he'd imagined. She was grounded. Real. They talked for an hour, about college, dreams, fears, expectations. Ian found himself opening up, something he rarely did. Meher listened without judgment, without interrupting, as if every word he spoke mattered. When he told her about his job at the garage, he felt ashamed. But she didn't flinch. "That's honest work," she said firmly. "Not everyone has the courage to build life with their own hands." He swallowed hard. No one had ever framed his life like that before. Not even he had. Inside the cafe, Mina and her friends pressed their faces to the glass, watching them. "What is she doing with him?" one whispered. "Is she talking to him like he's normal?" another said. Mina's face turned pale. "Wait, does Meher know him?" One girl shook her head. "She just walked out after him." "Why would she?" Their question was answered a moment later. Because Meher walked back into the cafe alone, marched straight to their table, and said in a calm, quiet voice that chilled them to the bone. "Apologize to him." Mina scoffed. "Why would I?" Meher's eyes hardened. "Because humiliation isn't entertainment. And because your cruelty says more about you than his background ever could. Her